In early 2025, Donald Trump stated, "This radicalized judge is saying that sleepy Joe Biden can fly more than 500,000 illegals into America in one day. But we have told many years of long and tedious trials to fly each and every one of them back home. Where is the justice here?" This is an obvious lie and an attack on Trump's political opponent, Joe Biden, and is just one instance of the constant trolling done by politicians, particularly Trump. We call this political trolling. You may be asking, what are the ethical implications of this? However, before we dive into ethics, let's take a look at what political trolling is, its origins, and how it's used today. Political trolling, put plainly, is making fun of or mocking an opponent to provoke a reaction from them. This mocking is often in the form of defamation and seeks to dismantle their target's credibility and respect. The origins can be traced to the 1948 presidential election when William F. Buckley, this man, and associates, who were all conservatives, went to a rally for Henry Wallace, who was a progressive, dressed as fake bohemians to mock the incumbent and claim he was a communist sympathizer. This led to mistrust of Henry Wallace, as people at the time were scared that he was a communist due to the Red Scare, even though he was not. So modern political trolling is much more widespread, and it doesn't really require organized attacks like it used to. From politicians to random anonymous people, anyone nowadays has the power to provoke anger and put someone else down. Scrolling through TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, etc., you'll find countless examples of little jabs that provoke a reaction, and they're usually a comment about something political. Just doing a brief scroll on TikTok, I found a comment that states, "Tariffs have brought 400 billion into the economy," on a post that criticizes Trump's tariffs. This is not true, but it stoked a long comment chain of angry replies, exactly what the troll wanted. This happens everywhere, and it's the modern state of politics, unfortunately. So, to judge the ethics of political trolling, I'll use two different frameworks: utilitarianism and egoism. So, in brief, the basics of utilitarianism are that actions are judged based on the consequences that follow said action. But there are lots of nuances and discrepancies about this ethics framework. For example, according to Ethics Unwrapped by the University of Texas, it is very hard to know what the result of an action will be most of the time and how many people will benefit. This makes using utilitarianism to judge your actions before making them very difficult, if not impossible. Egoism, on the other hand, is the pursuit of self-interest above all else and is often used to rationalize prioritizing yourself and letting others down. An egoist would claim that at their core, everyone wants what's best for them. So why help others if it brings them down? A good example of egoism is pretty much any successful businessman or CEO. There's almost no one that has reached the top of a large company without putting themselves first. So egoism wholeheartedly supports political trolling, as it is based on benefiting the maker, in this case, the person who did the trolling. When any random troll, however prominent on social media, makes a post or comment trolling a political thing they disagree with, they are benefiting themselves through rage baiting and getting many replies. It is common to see trolls with a string of 300 replies on TikTok, as they have upset enough people to get a ton of angry comments. To anyone else, this just looks like someone being edgy and problematic, but to the troll, they get lots of interactions and probably a laugh out of the replies they receive, thus reaping the rewards of their offhand comments. Political trolling from the perspective of utilitarianism is hard to determine and is more focused on the content of the individual post. Take, for example, a post from Trump defamating a political opponent, where he uses cruel words and makes up falsehoods about whoever he has chosen that day. In the eyes of his supporters, this would be a good thing and it would benefit them. Maybe they find it humorous or inspiring. While in the eyes of his opponents, the post would be a very harmful and cruel thing and not benefit them in any way. This makes it difficult to decide if the post is a good thing or a bad thing, as it raises the question of if it benefits more of his supporters or more of its opponents. The reality is that the post benefits most the perspective of whoever is viewing it. If you view it as a conservative, you'll benefit, and if you view it as a liberal, you will not. So, which one is better for this? So, I find that egoism works a lot better for political trolling and connects pretty perfectly to the person who is doing the trolling. Utilitarianism, on the other hand, is a lot more nuanced and is hard to use properly, used to properly judge how political trolling affects people. The two frameworks provide a nice contrast that encompasses all the sides of this topic. Utilitarianism gives a perspective on the people who are affected by the trolling, whether good or bad, and egoism gives a perspective on the person doing the trolling and how they react to their own posts. So, what's missing? What puzzle piece is not here? The biggest issue with these two ethics frameworks is that they miss the impact of trolling on the person who is being trolled. Trolling is very harmful for someone's mental health and can cause depression and even suicide in extreme cases. Neither egoism nor utilitarianism touches on the ethics of telling the truth, something that trolling does not do. It is important to remember that political trolling is extremely harmful for politics and only furthers the divide between parties, particularly in the United States. In the age of the internet, it is hard to discern what is real and what is fake, and trolls try to blur that line even more. One must take everything they see on social media with a grain of salt, and remember to do their own research before coming to a conclusion about a topic. That person's comment you saw on TikTok is not credible. Even what I have stated here, I invite you to fact check, as feedback on what someone missed is extremely important. In an age of misinformation, critical analysis has never been more important.